Oh, righty. You are looking live at Sold Out MetLife Stadium, where today the 16-0 and playoff-bound New York Giants will be taking on the 0-16 Dallas Cowboys. And why are the Dallas Cowboys 0-16? Because they suck. Welcome to the Gridiron. Anybody out there? Is anybody out there at all that's going to spend a little bit of time with me here this evening? I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Or if anybody spends any time at all watching the replay of this, once again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to try to go about 30 minutes here tonight, shoot my mouth off for about 30 minutes. Anybody got anything to say, please feel free to fire away, throw it in the chat box. I usually try to check on the chat box like every 5 or 10 minutes. So as soon as I see something in there, I try to respond to it as fast as I can. Plus, also, instead of me just, rambling on for half an hour, 40 minutes, or whatever it might want to be, and it's just nice to talk to another Giant fan. So please feel free, fire away. Before I get started, if anybody wants to help support my channel out, it would mean the absolute world to me. In the description box below, there's in the description box below, and I'm jumping ahead of myself. Description box below, there's the top link takes you to my membership page. We got 3 different membership levels. First one's called the Saquon. Second membership level I got is called the Lawrence Taylor, and the third membership level I got is called the Gridiron. Each one has their own little perks to them. So if you want to help support my channel out, it would mean the world to me, and I thank you in advance. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you are subscribed to my channel, once again, thank you. If you're not, please go down below, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon. That way, next time I go live or put a video out, you'll be notified. And it's free of charge. What do you got to lose, right? But if you're subscribed to my channel, once again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then finally, in the description box below, there's 2 links, 2 Facebook links. The top Facebook link takes you to my Facebook group. It's called the New York Giants, the Gridiron. It's a group. Basically, I say this in every video. My YouTube channel, my Facebook group, my Facebook page, it's all called the same thing. New York Giants, the Gridiron. That way I dumb it down for a moron like me. That way I can remember. It's not like, what's my group YouTube channel called? My Facebook page is it called the same as Facebook? It's all called the same thing. I dumb it down for myself, all right? What do we got? Still holding tight. Still have over 3,900 members in the group. Coming close to that 4,000 member mark. Very close. Should be any time now. Anytime. But in the group, I mean, basically what I do is after I get done going live, I'll spend probably like the next 2 hours or so putting stuff in the group and in the page, which I'm going to go over in a minute. So I try to get up to like 10 different things every day in the group and in the page. Sometimes in the off season, like we are right now, it's a little difficult sometimes, to get, a ton of stuff in there, but I try every day. But, if you become a member of the group, not only do I post stuff in here, but we got members posting stuff in here as well every day. So, there's a ton of stuff, whether I'm sharing an article or whether it's a video or it's a post, a picture, something making fun of the Eagles or the Cowboys, which are my personal favorites, right? I try to get up to 10 things in there every day, right? And usually we do it. I said it's 7 days a week. I'm always putting stuff in here. And then the second Facebook link takes you to my Facebook page, New York Giants, the Gridiron, but it's a page. I'm the administrator, so I'm the only one that posts in here. But it's the same thing, right? As with the group, every day. As soon as I get done going live, I'll spend the next couple hours just putting stuff in there. And it's 7 days a week, and I try to get up to like 10 things a day in there. Once again, whether it's a video, I'm sharing an article, it's a post, maybe something showing some stats on a ball player. Once again, something making fun of the Eagles or the Cowboys, which are my favorites, personal favorites. There's a ton of stuff going in here every day. What are we at? We're at over 1,900 likes, and we're over 6,400 people following the page here. It's really, really doing really well. Really, really taking off really well. I'm very, 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 very pleasantly surprised with the page here. But I said it's the same thing. 7 days a week, there's always a ton of stuff going in there every day. And I don't commingle with stuff. So basically, whatever, for the most part, whatever I put in the page, I don't put in the group. Whatever I put in the group, I don't put in the page. I just try to keep the stuff separate. That's all. Unless I find something really just super hysterically funny that makes fun of the Eagles. Then I just want to share that with everybody. So then I'll probably put that in the page and in the group. But other than that, I just try to keep everything separate, right? So if you go to the page and you like it and you follow it, and you go to the group and you become a member, you get a ton of New York Giants information every day. And like I say all the time, right? If you go to the page and you like it and you follow it, and you go to the group and you become a member, if you're not 100% satisfied, you get your money back guaranteed. With all that stuff said and done out of the way with, Tony, Dave Megan. How about that Dave Megan, huh? And McCaffrey, yep, we had him. Yeah, then we let him go to the he did pretty good with the Broncos. Sometimes you just give up on talent a little too early. We McCaffrey, we certainly could have used his talents, that's for sure. I mean, we had some nice wide receivers, but McCaffrey was a nice draft pick for us. Just I don't remember exactly why that we just didn't want to bring him back or we sign him or whatever it was, but I mean, he did go with the Broncos, so good for him. But as far as Meggett, he's one of the few guys you'd ever send back there in the Giants history that I can remember. One of the few, right, that you put him back there to receive a punt, and it's like this guy could take it to the house anytime, right? I mean, he made it fun to watch punt returns for the Giants. So just of late, it's just kind of. Ugh. I mean, nowadays it's almost like we don't even know who the punt returner is going to be, right? Back then, at least when we had Meggett, we knew who was going to be returning the punts for us. Nowadays, it's like, who's it going to be? I mean, that's one of those things going to find out in training camp, which is about 3 weeks away. I guess 21 days, right? I think it's the 25th. So we got actually, it's getting close to almost the 5th. So we got like 20 days until, man. And then it all starts all over again, guys. Absolutely amazing. I found this article. And I said, I got, who was it? I got to find, here we go. It's fan-sided, G-Men HQ, ranking the 10 best players in Giants history. Now, this one's pretty much spot on. I certainly can't really argue or complain about it. And I mean, it's really, really difficult. I mean, there's just a couple other guys, you can maybe consider putting in this list, which I'll kind of go over. But the first one they got, obviously, they said throughout the close to 100-year history of the Giants, some pretty incredible talents have come and gone. New York has won 4 NFL championships pre-merger and 4 Super Bowls. Surely they had to have some all-time talent to absolutely achieve this accomplishment, right? Absolutely. These 10 players all made massive impacts on the Giants during their time with the team, whether they contributed to a championship or were just incredibly dominant. With that said, here are the 10 best players in the Giants' history. Well, number one they got is Phil Simms, all right, quarterback, number 10. His accolades is 2-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Super Bowl champion. Now, the thing is that one of those history's mysteries you're never, ever going to know was if he never got hurt against the Buffalo Bills in the regular season, would we have made it to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl? One of those history mysteries, one of those things you're never going to know. If he was our starting quarterback, right, would we have won the Super Bowl? Because one of the best things that might have happened to the Giants was our starting quarterback went down. Because we had the defense. We had a good quarterback, but he was a statue. Well, we needed somebody who could scramble around. That's what entered Jeff Hostetler. Jeff Hostetler was kind of like what we needed in that 1990 season to get us through, against not so much against the Bears because we throttled them in the playoffs, but I really believe that because of Jeff Hostetler against the 49ers in the championship game and against the Bills, I think with his mobility, because, not that Phil Simms never ran, but it was like, teams didn't have to maybe spy on him or keep him in mind or anything like that when he dropped back to pass. They had to do that with Jeff Hostetler. Now, I think that might have been one of the huge keys to victory, for the Giants in the 1990 season. We had the defense, obviously, but you need to score some points as well, though. So, because Jeff Hostetler came in there, he might have quite possibly been the reason why, it would have been tough to see if with Phil Simms in there, if he stayed healthy, if he would have took us all the way to the promised land in that one particular season, right? But it's hard to argue. I mean, Phil Simms, it was around for a long, long time. His Super Bowl performance in Super Bowl 21. This is a couple of guys that I got. One is and all these other guys. There was number 9, Harry Carson, obviously a Hall of Fame linebacker, right? Tough to argue with that. But two of the guys that aren't on this list, I just wanted to bring up, and one just kind of I don't know. Someone ticks you off, but ticks you off for him. I'm ticked off, for him. It was Tiki Barber. Now, he played for 10 seasons. Obviously, he was sparingly used early on. He was used more and more. What is it? 1, 2, his last 5 seasons. First 5 seasons. Well, actually in 2000, we had the Thunder and Lightning, I think it was, right? With him and Ron Dane. So he got used a bunch. He had 1,000 yards rushing. Ron Dane, I think, had 800 yards rushing or almost 800 yards rushing. So we had a nice little dynamic duo going on there. After that, it kind of went downhill. But, Tiki, especially his last 5 seasons. His last 5 seasons, he ran for over 1,200 yards, his final 5 seasons. Matter of fact, just to go how ridiculous Tiki Barber was, is that his final 3 seasons, he had over 2,000 all-purpose yards, his final 3 seasons, and then he retires. Just unbelievable career. Now, I said the thing that just ticks you off is because he retired after 2006. Obviously, he had no idea we were going to win the Super Bowl the next season. If he had a crystal ball and he looked into the crystal ball and he's like, and the crystal ball or a little genie popped out and said, "Hey, Tiki, if you hang around for one more season, you'll win a Super Bowl." I'm sure he would have stuck it out for, I can't put words in his mouth, but possibly he might have played for one more season. But final 2-3 seasons, average over 2,000 all-purpose yards, 3 straight seasons, and it was his final 3 seasons, and then retires. He had over 10,449 yards rushing. He had 5,183 yards receiving. So he had over 15,500 total yards. The thing, it just kind of ticks you off. If he's just, say if he was able to play another 2 seasons and say he had like 1,200 yards total in each season, he would have like about 18,000 total yards. Kind of tough to keep him out of the Hall of Fame then. Because let's not forget the 2007 and the 2018 were phenomenal. The 2018 seemed even in the beginning, it was even better than the 2007 until Plaxico shoots himself in the leg. It's just a shame that he wound up retiring. But once again, he retired after he was 31. He'd been in the league for 10 years. You run the ball for 10 years. That's a lot of wear and tear on your body. What do you have? He had 2,217 carries, 586 receptions. So, so what is that? 25? He had like 2,800 touches. It's a lot of touches. He was kind of saying, I remember something along the lines like, it was harder to get up in the morning or harder to, whatever, to get, to do the job and, get up and perform. And it was just kind of wearing on him and all that and everything. And, you only got one body, and the NFL can really take a toll on you, So, he just thought the time was right. 10 seasons is what he gave to the organization. Phenomenal 10 seasons it was. It's just that my thing is with Tiki on this list here, not being on this list here, like say number 10. Just say I'm just taking Tiki and I'm flopping Tiki with Phil Simms. Okay. Now the thing is with Phil Simms, we got Teddy. I saw Tiki run with his helmet in the dirt. O.J. Anderson. Oh yeah, yes he was. NFL, the MVP, Super Bowl 25. But see, the thing was with Tiki and with Phil Simms. Phil Simms is number 10. See, with Phil Simms, he was a good quarterback, this, that. Now, you can't really take anything away from him. But let's not forget in the 80s when we had all of that. Phil had a 500-yard passing game. He had some good games without question. But let's not forget in the 80s, who dominated in the 80s? It was the defense. So Phil, yes, absolutely helped us win some football games without question. But let's not forget, for the most part, it was the defense that reigned supreme in the 80s when Phil was there. Phil won a lot of games for us, but there's a lot of times that, we might have been able to win those games maybe with a different quarterback in. I'm not saying a third string or something like that, but there were games there when Tiki, the final couple seasons and all, that the Giants would not have won without Tiki. Would not. I mean, Tiki was the man. Tiki, a couple of those games, Tiki put the whole freaking team on his back and said, "Yo, we're winning. Just get on my back. I got a couple hundred all-purpose yards this game in me. We're winning this effing game, guys." You know what I mean? So I mean, just to have Tiki off of that list. I mean, it's hard to argue either way. But I mean, I'm kind of ticked off about Tiki, retiring a year or so. Guy's 15,500 all-purpose yards, and he's still not in the Hall of Fame. I mean, there's not many running backs there in the history have over 10,000 rushing yards and 5,000 receiving yards. Tiki's one of them. I don't know who the other guys are. I'm sure there's probably a couple others, but, I mean, 15,500. So I'm saying if Tiki could have just stuck it out for another couple of seasons and had I'm just saying 1,250 all-purpose yards the next 2 seasons each year, he would have had 18,000 all-purpose yards between rushing and receiving. I mean, it's hard to keep a guy that 18,000 yards out of the Hall of Fame, But anyway, and also the other guy I want to put in there is, and just throw out there is Chuck and Charlie Connolly. He was the Giants quarterback from 1948 to 1961. He took the Giants were in 1956, 58, 59, and 61. So he went to 4 championship games. Unfortunately, the Giants only won one of them. But, when he came into the league in 1948, obviously it was a running league. He established some rookie passing records for the Giants, which one of them had just been broken recently by Daniel Jones, was touchdown passes by a rookie, which was 22. Daniel Jones had 24 in his rookie season. And Daniel Jones started in 12 games, played in 13, but he started in 12 games. Charlie Connolly played in 12 games in 1940. He only started in 4 of them. So he played in all the games. A lot of times he would come off the bench. But he had 22 touchdown passes in 12 games. As I said, took, 48, 58, 68, 78, 88, 98, about 70 years took to break his record of 22 touchdown passes by a rookie quarterback. As I said, Daniel Jones, he had 24. But Charlie Connolly was a very good quarterback for the Giants from 1948 to 61. His length of time with the Giants was about the same as what Phil Simms. Phil Simms was, I think, 79 to 93. So Charlie Connolly was 48 to 61. Charlie Connolly, took the Giants to 4 championship games. Very, very instrumental quarterback for the Giants back then. I mean, a lot of people don't remember him or whatever, but I mean, he's somebody else you can maybe consider putting on this list as well too. But Other than that, I mean, it's hard to argue with this list. So then they got number 9. All right, obviously it's Harry Carson, right? Hall of Famer. So shame he couldn't play a couple more years because he just missed that on the second Super Bowl victory. But he spent his whole 13-year career with the Giants, and we make 9 Pro Bowls and 4 All-Pro second teams. So he was a special player. So absolutely, number 9 was Harry Carson. Number 8 is Emlen Tunnell, who came in the same time as Charlie Connolly, 1948. He was a safety for the Giants. He is an 8-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro. Giants interception leader. He has his second most interceptions in the history of the NFL. He's only about 3 or 4 or 5 behind Paul Krause, who is the all-time leader. However, the difference is with Emlen Tunnell, when Emlen played, he played in 12-game seasons. When Paul Krause played, he played in 14-game seasons. So had Emlen Tunnell played in 14-game seasons over his entire career, he would have played almost an additional 2 seasons. So if he played an additional 2 seasons, he easily would have had another 10 or 11 interceptions. He had 79 career interceptions between the Giants and his final 3 seasons with the Green Bay Packers. He would have easily had like 90 interceptions, which would have been number 1 of all time. So, Emlen Tunnell is number 2 all time, but that's because he played less games, because they played less games per season back then too. But I mean, Emlen Tunnell, phenomenal, absolute phenomenal athlete. Says through his 11 years with the Giants, played 48 to 58. Tunnell would snag 74 interceptions. His final 3 seasons with the Packers, he had 5 interceptions. He played with the Packers from 59, 16, 61. 1961, the NFL championship game was his final game ever that he played. And oddly enough, he played for the Packers, but oddly enough, in the 61 championship game, they played against the New York Giants. Says 74 interceptions, which ranks second all time in the entire NFL. Alongside this, Tunnell was also an elite punt return. Yes, he was. Currently, he ranks 14th all time in punt return TDs with 5. And I said, once again, he's 14th all time. And he quit in the 50s or early 60s. But I said, once again, he played when they had 12-game seasons. So once again, had he played 14 or 16 game seasons, or what are we up to 38 games a season now? I mean, it'll be there soon because it's all about the money, right? But had he played more games per season like they do nowadays, he would probably have more punt return touchdowns, and he'd be even higher on the list. Once again, that's why phenomenal athletes like Emlen Tunnell get forgotten a lot, because they hardly played any games. Now they're playing. Back then, they only played 12-game seasons. Now they're playing 17 games. They're playing 5 more games. They're playing almost 50% more games than they did back then. And, they're like, yeah, so-and-so just set another record. I guess so. They're playing so many games. Of course, you're going to set more and more season records. But anyway, Tunnell was an absolute phenomenal Hall of Famer, fantastic player for the Giants. Giants are lucky. Very, very lucky. And of course, you got running back, wide receiver Frank Gifford, 8-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first team All-Pro, 1956 NFL champion, 1956 NFL MVP, and Player of the Year, NFL Hall of Famer, all 50s team. And so I mean, he was, we tied his number 16. I mean, he could do it all. He could run, he could catch, he could pass. Wasn't much he couldn't do. Absolutely phenomenal player. Let's see. By the time he retired, Gifford racked up over 9,000 yards on the ground and through the air, while also scoring 77 touchdowns. I mean, he was just a phenomenal player for the Giants. Defensive lineman Andy Robustelli. We got 4-time first-team All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, 2-time second-team All-Pro, 1956 NFL champion, and NFL Hall of Famer. Andy Robustelli. We had a trade with the Rams to get him, but he at his defensive end position, number 81, absolutely phenomenal. Says according to Pro Football Reference, in the final 5 years of his career, Robustelli racked up 52.5 sacks, which is just absurd considering that these numbers were put up between the ages of 35 and 39. He had 52 sacks in his. That's when he was from 35 to 39. I mean, are you kidding me? Unbelievable. Says we can only imagine the numbers Robustelli was putting up during his prime. I mean, because when he retired after the 64 season, he was 39 years old, still sacking the quarterback at almost 40. Without Robustelli, there's a very real chance that the Giants didn't win the 1956 NFL championship game. The team had failed to make the postseason every year until 56, and it was and still is incredibly apparent how impactful the Robustelli trade was. And then, of course, they drafted Sam Huff that year, too. But in 1956, that's when they drafted that's when they traded for Andy Robustelli. So then, of course, we have here they have, I believe it's back-to-back offensive linemen, the two greatest offensive linemen in the history of the New York Giants. Number 5, they got center and linebacker, because back in the 30s and the 40s, you had to go both ways. If you only went one way, basically you were going to be escorted off the field and sat on the sideline where you drank Kool-Aid for the rest of your career. You had to go both ways back in the 30s, because they only had so many players that they had on their roster. You had to go both ways. It's not like the way it is nowadays. The guys want, $100 million a year, and they want to play, just one position, whatever. I mean, back in the day, in the 30s and the 40s, you had to play both ways, and not only that, you still had to work another job just to be able to feed your family. So always keep that in mind. Center Mel Hein, accolades: 4-time Pro Bowler, 5-time All-Pro, 2-time NFL champion, 1934, 1938. It says 1939 Carr Award MVP. That's wrong. He won the MVP award in 1938, the season that they won their championship. 1938 MVP. He won the MVP as a center. Wrap your head around that one. He's a Hall of Famer. He's on the All 1930s team. Just phenomenal. And if you ever wonder why you don't see number 7 anymore, that's Mel Hein. They retired his number. I mean, he played, just a phenomenal 15 seasons with the Giants. 15. I mean, back in the 30s and the 40s, where it didn't take much to get injured, somebody take your knee out or something, or whatever. You guys' careers are really short back then. He played 15 seasons. I mean, very, very, simply amazing. Very, very impressive. And then, of course, it says Hein also snagged 10 interceptions throughout his career, which is rather impressive considering the era and position he played. So, he was just an absolutely amazing offensive lineman for the Giants. He was the center. So then the next one, I believe, is Roosevelt Brown. Yes, it is. Offensive tackle, left tackle, Roosevelt Brown. 9-time Pro Bowler, 6-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro, 1956 NFL champion, Hall of Fame, All-50s team, and he was a Hall of Famer. He was drafted in the 27th round of the 1953 draft. He played from 1953 to 1965, so I guess it's 13 seasons, if my math is correct, all with the Giants. Guy was built like a Greek statue. 6'3", I think he was. I saw like 255 pounds. You're 6'3", 255 pounds. And he was, I heard the guy had like a 30-inch waist or something like that. The guy was built like just a Greek statue. Just absolutely. Morgan State, I think, was the college he was from. Oh, what a specimen he was. Absolutely. For Andrew Thomas to beat him as the best offensive tackle, he's got his work cut out for him. Let me tell you what. And Rosie Brown played in the 1950s for the Giants, 50s and the 60s. So without question, you can't argue at all with that. Number 4 is Roosevelt Brown. Then we get into Michael Strahan. Once again, what can you say that isn't said about Michael? 7-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro, New York Giants all-time tackle leader, NFL single-season sack record, all the 2007 Super Bowl champion, 2001 NFL Defensive Player of the Year, Hall of Famer, all 2000s team. Yada, yada, yada. The Super Bowl champion. He was in 2 Super Bowls. They won one of them, of course. Obviously, what can you say or can't say about it? It's, can't argue with number 92, Michael Strahan. Then what do we got? Of course, and, we wouldn't have our final 2 rings without Eli, who basically carried the Giants through the playoffs in 2011. You know, I mean, you can say what you want about Eli. Interceptions. We only went to the playoffs. So many. I mean, after the 2011 season, we went to the playoffs one more time with him as the quarterback. Blah, 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 blah. You can say all this stuff you want about it, but when it was money time, when he got to the Super Bowl, who was the GOAT? Eli, right? So, you can't say nothing bad about Eli. We were so thankful that we made a trade for him in the 2004 draft to get him. Not that Philip Rivers was a bad quarterback either, but it's hard to argue with Eli. I said it's the reason why we have our final two rings, especially the 2011, because he carried the team. All right, then of course, we got number one is I don't know, some guy named Lawrence Taylor. So I'm not even going to 10-time Pro Bowler, 8-time first team All Pro, 2-time second team All Pro, 3-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year, 1986 NFL MVP. I mean, basically him and Alan Page in 1971 were the only, the two defensive NFL MVPs. 1971, Alan Page. 1986, Lawrence Taylor. I mean, 1986. That if you ever look at the MVP voting, it wasn't even close. I mean, it was like Lawrence Taylor had like 40-something votes, whatever it was. I think Dan Marino was second with like 17. And I mean, you look at the guys, back then, Jerry Rice was there, but I mean, Dan Marino and Joe Montana and John Elway, Eric Dickerson, Walter Payton. I mean, you had some phenomenal players back then. And you got Lawrence Taylor, the defensive player, was like far and away. I think if you could add up all the other guys together, all of their scores together, it didn't even equal what Lawrence Taylor was. So, I mean, he was just, what can you say? The greatest defensive player in the history of football, bar none. I don't care what any news Jack Wagons from Dallas say about Micah Parsons. I mean, he'll never be Lawrence Taylor. But so I saw that. So then I saw Darius Slayton. Let's see here. Where are we at here? Giants Darius Slayton. Named, and this is Giants Wire, named NFL's most underrated wide receiver. And he'd be, if he wouldn't make so many, not so many, but it's just some of those drop passes he makes, it just kind of makes you scratch your head. Oh. But it says here, this is from Giants Wire, as of the 2022 New York Giants offseason near its end, a roster spot for wide receiver Darius Slayton was far from guaranteed. And while Slayton did ultimately make the team's roster, it was quite a rocky start. After season-ending injuries to Sterling Shepard and Wan'Dale Robinson, along with Kenny Golladay and Kadarius Toney failing to contribute, Slayton quickly climbed the depth chart. Recently, Bleach Report listed Slayton as the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL ahead of the 2023 season. New York Giants have utilized a run-heavy offense and haven't consistently relied on quarterback Daniel Jones' arm. That has and will continue to limit the overall production of Darius Slayton. Oh, yeah. I mean, if we look, obviously there's the 3 seasons he had over 700 yards receiving. 19, 20, and 22. He had all over 700 yards receiving. And the one thing I like, the consistency of his yards per reception. First season, 15.4 yards of reception. Second season, 15.0. Last season, 15.7. His third season dropped down to 13. He played in only 13 games, so he missed 4 games. He only started in 5 games. He only had 339 yards reception. But, once again, he missed some time and all. But, the years that he was relatively healthy and played in almost all the games. He very consistent, 15 yards reception. Very, very impressive. Now, let's not forget the 8 touchdown receptions he had his rookie season. That certainly was very eye-opening. Outside of fantasy, Slayton also remains underrated, and off-season additions of Waller and Hyatt will likely keep Slayton overlooked in New York. Even in an inconsistent Giants passing attack, though, he has topped 700 yards in 3 of his 4 seasons and provided a passer rating above 96 in 2 of them. And just imagine if he didn't drop so many passes, the passer rating probably would be even higher, right? What's really impressive about Slayton is his efficiency. The past season, he ranked 4th in the NFL in yards per target, 10.2, behind only A.J. Brown, Jaylen Waddle, and Dallas Goedert. And he was 1 spot ahead of Tyreek Hill in that department. Slayton also possesses a ton of upside with good size, 6'1", 190, and 4.93 speed. The key to unlocking that potential will be allowing Jones to stretch the field, which could be in the cards this season. Walking away from last season, explosive plays were the thing we needed more of. So I think this spring there's been a conscious effort to push the ball down the field, Slayton said. If Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka are willing to open up the Giants' offense this year, Slayton could finally shine. So, without question, I mean, that's one huge thing. One huge thing is that, the Giants, certainly need to open up the offense. Get the ball stretched down the field. And, if you wind up taking more shots down the field, you might have another interception or 2 here. But at least the one nice thing about that is, it sets up a lot of things. It stretches them out. Keeps them. Hey, we gotta be on our P's and Q's here, right? And we know they want to go short underneath with Paris Campbell, and they know they like Saquon and but they just took a couple deep shots about 10 minutes ago. We gotta be aware of that, right? So they can't start, bringing all the guys within 15 yards of the line of scrimmage or what. They got to be aware of guys running down the field. So let's hope that they wind up doing something like that because, I forgot what the percentage is, but I know it skyrockets immensely if you have a play of 20 or more yards on a drive as far as you scoring a touchdown. It's so difficult nowadays because, let's face it. The athletes in the NFL are just phenomenal athletes, whether you're making $30 million a year or $1 million a year. If you're in the NFL, you're a heck of an athlete. And it's so difficult for you to dunk and dink and dink and dunk your way down the field, on a 14, 15, 16 play drive consistently and try to score touchdowns. You're asking for like the perfect drive every time. Okay, we're just going to hand the ball off. We'll get 4 yards, then we'll throw a 5-yard pass, and then we'll get 3 yards on a run. We'll get a first down. Then we're going to have a 5-yard pass. Then we're going to hit a 3-yard pass. Then we're going to run the ball around in for 7 yards. First down. Then we're going to run. It doesn't work like that. The guys on the other side of the line of scrimmage, they get a paycheck too. And for you to overcome a holding call or a sack or a drop pass or this or that, or what, a trillion things that can go wrong on a drive. It's so difficult just, to try to continually score drives. I'm going to get another 17-play drive here. Just watch us go. Good luck. It's so important to get those long plays. So important. So hopefully the Giants this season with, we got the speed there. Between Waller, the freakish athlete he is, but you got Hyatt, Campbell and Slayton. We got, as Slayton said, we got some Ferraris. It's time to take them out of the garage, as he put it. All right, and then I saw the Giants. The problem that the Giants have. Where was it? SB Nation, Big Blue View, SB Nation. Who wrote this? By Anthony Del Genio. I guess that's how you say his name. Says the Giants' good problem of 2 good tight ends. That's a good problem to have. Says a year ago, Daniel Bellinger was relatively unheralded 4th-round draft pick of the New York Giants in a deep tight end draft class. The 6th tight end selected. Once the season began, though, Bellinger grew into a significant part of the Giants' offense, despite a horrific eye injury. Yeah, it's a freaking shame. It's just like you get like something like that, where the guy winds up sticking his fingers or whatever, his fist, whatever it winds up through his face mask to break his eye socket, or like when Saquon the pass is overthrown. He looks for the pass that, Daniel Jones fires over his head. And he winds up stepping on the dude's foot and really, severely injuring his ankle, and just freakish injuries like that. But unfortunately, that's part of football. Bellinger finished 5th in receptions among the rookie counterparts with an outstanding 90.9 completion rate. Very impressive. Big things were anticipated from him in 2023. Then the Giants traded for Darren Waller, a top 5 tight end when healthy, not to mention beefing up their wide receiver corps with Campbell, Hyatt, and others. Add them to Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, Sterling Shepard, and that's a lot of mouths for Daniel Jones to feed. There's only one football. So, with only one ball to spread around, it's natural to wonder whether Bellinger's role in 2023 will change to involve more blocking duties and fewer pass catching opportunities. He was capable of block as a rookie, and his physical appearance on OTAs did nothing to create a different impression. But let's not also forget, too, the more weapons you got, right, the better, hopefully, in theory, the longer you'll have the ball. So the more time you got the ball, right? So, say the Giants, I'm just saying, wind up with the ball, say another 3 or 4 or 5 minutes per game. Well, his numbers could stay relatively close to what they were kind of last season. Maybe they might take a little dip, but if the Giants have the ball more, that means that they're throwing the ball more. There's more completions to go around. So, say if he was averaging, I'm just saying, 3 receptions a season last year, three receptions a game last year, well, maybe he might go down to 2.5, maybe. We got more mouths to feed. But as far as his numbers plummeting, I don't really see that happening. I think I think we're going to have the ball more, keep it longer, score more points. Right? So there'll probably be more receptions to go around. Darren Waller is going to make it better for Daniel Bellinger. Maybe Jalen Hyatt taking the top off the defense is going to open things up for Daniel Bellinger, right? A second year, more experienced Wan'Dale Robinson might make it better for Daniel Bellinger. Daniel Bellinger going to tight end university, going to make it better for Daniel Bellinger, right? Daniel Bellinger, working out and, not missing bicep day is going to make it better for him. You know what I mean? So if anything falls off, it is number wise. I couldn't see it being too much. I'd have a hard time seeing him maybe getting more receptions, but we'll have to wait and see. It says some tight end has to block for the Giants, and Waller's not that guy. Is Bellinger going to mostly be the blocking tight end right now? Travis Kelce and George Kittle don't seem to think he should be, based on his work at their off-season program, Tight End University, the past 2 years. It says here's Kelce mentioning Bellinger. Travis Kelce on Giants rookie tight end Daniel Bellinger. I don't know if there are any that remind me of myself. That's extremely fair to say. But there are a few guys I'm excited about. Kyle Pitts being one of them. Yeah, absolutely. Jake Ferguson down in Dallas. And then he says, and Daniel Bellinger over in New York. I'm excited to see how these guys manifest over the next few years, and we'll see where they can take their game. It says from Travis Kelce on the rising tight ends in the NFL. So, also the Skittle Man also mentioned Daniel Bellinger as well too. Bellinger would seem to be a wasted talent as a primary, just pretty much as a blocker. Absolutely, without question. Injuries are inevitable in the NFL, as the Giants know all too well from 2022. And so opportunities arise when there have been none before. Given Waller's recent injury history, that can't be ruled out. So let's imagine, though, that for a change, the Giants have good injury luck in 2023. Is it possible for a team with a premier tight end and fairly deep group of wide receivers to also adequately exploit Bellinger's value as a receiver? It says Darren Waller as a Raider. The obvious first question is how the Oakland and Las Vegas Raiders offense operated with Darren Waller. Waller had 2 healthy seasons as a Raider that showcased him as an elite pass-catching tight end, 2019, 2020. During these seasons, he was the guy for the Raiders. The other tight ends of the roster were purely an afterthought. Yeah, kind of. One of the years, Darren Waller got 115 targets. The other tight ends combined got 43. So he had almost 3 times the amount of targets as all the other tight ends combined. Then the other season, Waller had 140 targets. That's when Jason Witten was there. Jason Witten had 16. He caught 13 passes, though, out of the 16. But they had 27 targets combined. So he had 5 times the amount of targets the other guys had combined. That just goes to show you. It says with Waller being targeted 8 to 9 times a game, the other tight ends were lucky to see one ball come their way in any week. During those seasons, the Raiders also had some good to very good wide receivers, perhaps not that much different than the 2023 Giants. Hunter Renfrow, Zay Jones, Tyrell Williams, Nelson Aguilar, and Henry Ruggs getting balls to them, as well as Waller left little for the other tight ends. How can Bellinger be more than an afterthought as a receiving option this year? Then it shows examples of teams that shared the ball between 2 tight ends. One of them was they're talking about the Ravens. Let's set the bar at 50 targets over the regular season. That's very fair, okay, for 2 tight ends. About 3 per game, which is certainly not an exceptional amount. And, obviously 17 games, 3 targets a game, that's 51 for the season. So they set the bar at 50. So as the threshold for a tight end who is a significant contributor as a receiver, in 2022, there was only one NFL team with 2 tight ends that cleared that threshold, which was the Ravens, with Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, of course. Likely had 56 targets and Andrews had 110. So Andrews had basically twice as many. But between the two, each one had over 50 targets. If we go back to 2021, we find another example with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now it's, Cameron Brate and the Gronk, 2 very good tight ends without question. Brate had 50 targets. And Gronk had 86, but he only played in 12 games. So he missed, 5 games. But once again, between the two, they both had over 50 or more targets. So they obviously, and the Tampa Bay did very well that year, right? Said future Hall of Famer Gronkowski in his final season had 86 targets, leaving 50 for tight end 2 Cameron Brate. Unfortunately, Gronk's numbers was that low, and Brate's that high only because Gronk missed 5 games. The Giants hope this is not a good analogy for Waller and Bellinger. Let's see here. Also in 2021, the Browns targeted Austin Hooper and David Njoku, 58 for Hooper and 53 times for Njoku, respectively. That's because neither tight end was an elite receiving option. But once again, they both had, over 50 targets. Then there was the 2020 team. Obviously, it's hard to beat this. With the Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles with Zach Ertz getting 68 targets and Dallas Goedert getting 64. That team was in turmoil, and Ertz was on the back 9 of his career by then, though he's done pretty well since joining the Cardinals. But if you look back at the previous season when Ertz was still in his prime and Goedert was a second-year player, we see numbers that would make Giants fans pretty happy for 2023 if Waller and Bellinger were the names next to them. Dallas Goedert had 78 targets, and Zach Ertz had 128 in 2019. So, between the two, right? This is Peterson was the coach back then. He loved his tight ends. That was the tight end madman. Right. So between the 2 tight ends, they had over 200 targets between the 2 of them. And that was in a 16-game schedule. Let's see here. Okay, you have to go back to 2016 to find a team that had 2 good tight ends, each getting a substantial amount of work in the passing game between Jordan Reed and Vernon Davis, 2 phenomenal tight ends, by the way, while simultaneously having a good wide receiver group with Pierre Garçon, Deshaun Jackson, and Jamison Crowder. All of them had over at least 59 targets. Very, very, very good group with Davis, Reed, Jackson, Crowder, and Pierre Garçon. What a group that is. Let's see. It says that team was third in the NFL with 4,948 passing yards. So they had almost 5,000 passing yards that season. Unbelievable. Then you go back even farther. They have the 2011 New England Patriots, who had the Gronk and Aaron, I'm in jail now for the rest of my life, Hernandez, at their peak of their productivity. Gronk had 121 targets. Wes Welker had 169. And Aaron Hernandez had 108 targets. And even Deion Branch had 85. I mean, that was just what an offense that had. Said Tom Brady was the one delivering those passes. He had 5,235 yards passing that season. Says, but what a group. That team made the Super Bowl, of course. But thanks to Chase Blackburn intercepting a pass intended for Gronk, they didn't quite get there. That's right. Good old Chase. So, I mean, let's see. It said personal groupings. Nick Filato, in his assessment of the 2023 Giants tight end room, referred to Waller and Bellinger as a formidable 12 personnel package. Here's the breakdown of how Brian Dable and Mike Kafka used various personal packages in 2022 and how successful they were for the formation. Well, in 2022, 12 personnel packages were the Giants' second most frequent group, 20% of the time, including looks with 2 wide receivers and 1 wide receiver. That was a distant second to the 11 personnel grouping that was used 2/3 of the time. So, Giants passed out a 1-2-2 55% of the time. With Waller on the team, we might expect to see the 12 groupings to be much more common in 2023. 1 running back, 2 tight ends, and then 2 wide receivers. So note that even if a tight end lines up on the boundary and goes deep, as Waller probably will do a lot this season, it is still recorded as a 12 personnel if Bellinger or another tight end is also on the field. Yeah, so just because we got a 12 out there, you got Saquon in the back, say you got Bellinger lining up in line, right, next to Evan Neal, right? I mean, Waller could be out wide, right? You can have whoever. Pick your other guy, and Paris Campbell in the slot, Wandell in the slot, Sterling Shepard in the slot, whoever, right? So just because Waller's out wide, it's still 12 personnel, 2 tight ends. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. It says, do the Giants' 2023 opponents look susceptible to receiving tight ends? It says, according to Pro Football Focus preseason rankings of linebacker groups, the Giants will play against many linebacker groups this season that are projected to be weak. The Rams are number 32. The Eagles are number 31. The Raiders are number 30. And the Commanders are number 25. And the Cardinals are number 23. That seems tailor-made for the Waller-Bellinger pairing. It's surprising to see the Eagles near the bottom of any league-wide ranking, and second-year linebacker Nakobe Dean may become a good player this season. You've got to have some kind of good game plan against that formidable defense, though, and you can do worse than attacking the second level with 2 good tight ends before the pass rush can get to Jones. So they got to play the Rams, the Eagles twice, the Raiders, the Commanders twice, and the Cardinals. So 7 of their 17 games are against teams with the linebacker are weak, so to speak. So, I mean, things are quite possibly looking up, good for that. But I mean, once again, the scheming stuff up for them, right? I mean, I'm sure they got all kinds of stuff. I mean, I'm sure you'll see Waller all over the place. I'm not sure how often you're going to see Bellinger out wide, but you never know. But one thing's for sure is that Waller, hopefully he can stay healthy. I'm sure they have a lot of stuff in mind for Mr. Waller because he can do a lot of things, a freakish athlete that he is. So, well, guys, it's been 53 minutes. Whoever spent any time watching this, thank you. Or if anybody spends any time watching and replay this, once again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. As always, you guys stay safe. Go Giants! Woo! Oh, yeah.